Hello and welcome to the very last bit of this lovely project. We're going to be making a border. I do recommend this for whatever project you are going to be working this into, whether it's a blanket or wall hanging. Please make this border. It really frames the project. Now we're going to attach the yarn in the color of your border. So if you've decided to make your border with this and you have enough yarn, you can start somewhere here, because then you can make the hanging system immediately after finishing the border. I want to make it with black, and I don't want to start here because that would mean that I would have to darn in my black ends into the red. So even though that would be a tiny bit easier for the hanging system, I'm going to start a bit off to the side. I'm going to start with a slip stitch in between these two blocks. There isn't really a slip stitch here to go into, it's just this chain space, so that's what I'm going to go into to make a slip stitch. Then I'm going to make 3 chain. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to slip stitch into the space between the next 2 blocks. Again, it's not really a slip stitch, it's just the space between the blocks. Chain 3 and slip stitch. And then for the corner, you're going to find the utmost corner. This can again be a little bit wonky or fiddly or however you want to call it. I'm not using very professional terminology here, but fiddly is what I'm going with. So you're going to go underneath 2 loops there and make a slip stitch. And then chain 3 and make a slip stitch into that same space you just created. And that's what we're going to repeat all the way around the blanket. Chain 3. And sometimes there will be a nice clean slip stitch where you can slip stitch into, like you've done so often by now. I think on the top and the bottom this will be the case. But then on the sides it's not that clear, so you'll go into the space between blocks, just like we did for the first couple of slip stitches of this round. So it's just going to be this, chain 3, slip stitch into the next slip stitch or the next space between blocks, and then in the corners you do slip stitch into the corner, chain 3, slip stitch back into that same position, and then chain 3 and carry on. It's not a complicated first round to a border, if you ask me. It is quite a long way to go all around your project, but you know, that can be fun as well. So that's what we're going to do. I'll get back to you when I finish, almost finish this round. If you're confused about the corner, just rewind a little bit so you can see how we did it for the first corner, and then that's how you're going to do it for the next 3 corners. So good luck. Chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch. That's all there is to it. So for the last little bit of round 1, you're going to chain 3, and then this was the first chain space you crocheted. So this is where your slip stitch is. Again, it's the black yarn, forgive me. You're going to make a slip stitch into that first chain space. And then you're all set and ready for round 2. We're not going to fasten off here. So for round 2, we're going to chain 3, then we're going to make 2 double crochet into that same chain space, and then we're going to go around the project and we're going to make 3 double crochet into each chain space. Round and round we go. 3 double crochet in each chain space. The only exception to that are the chain spaces on the corner, because that will get 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1, and then 3 more double crochet into that same little space. That allows us to go around the corner. And then you're just going to repeat that all the way around. So 3 double crochet into each chain space with, on the corners, 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet. That's, my yarn is stuck. That's it for this row. I'll get back to you when we get back to the beginning to show you how to fasten it off. For round 3, we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to look for the space between the last double crochet of this block and the first double crochet of that block. So you're going to slip stitch into that, and then we chain 3, and then you slip stitch into the next position between blocks, as it were. So that really mirrors what you've been doing inside of the project all that time. You don't go into a stitch, but you really go in between the double crochets, and then in between the third of one and the first of the other block. In the corner, we'll do slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, just as you did for the first round. That means you turn your work a little bit, or you rotate to be more exact, I think in English. And then you chain 3 again, and you look for this position between the blocks. This makes sure that the slip stitches and the double crochets sort of line up visually. It would look a bit wonky if this slip stitch would be between these two, for example, because then it would sort of jump. So you really want them to be stacked, one on top of the other. So that's what we're going to do. Just chain 3 and then slip stitch in between the 3 double crochet groups of the previous round. And that's just it. And then the corners are again slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, just like you did for round 1. So nothing spectacular or new, just easy going, smooth sailing, really enthusiastically finishing off this project so that it doesn't end up on your work in progress pile, but actually ends up on your finished works for this year or for whenever you're watching it. I'll carry on with this. I'll come back to you at the end of the row round, and then we will see how to make the last round work. At the end of round 3, you're going to once again look for the first chain space, insert your hook into that, and go like this, make a slip stitch into it. That's the end of the 3rd round. You should now have lovely little chain spaces on top of what you did in round 2. Round 4 is a complete repetition of round 2. So we're going to start with chain 3, make 2 more double crochet into this chain space, and then make 3 double crochet into each chain space around, except for the corners, which get 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, just like you did in round 2. This should feel familiar because you've done it before. This is not a deja vu. This is not training. So in this little corner space, that's where you put 3 double crochet like this, then chain 1, and then 3 double crochet again. And that ensures that you go around the corner, as it were. And that's it. There's no more explaining to do for this round. At the end of the round, I'll show you how to do an invisible cast off if you've never done that before. It will be a bit of a challenge in the black, so maybe I'll just attach a bit of blue yarn and show you with a different color, because it will be a challenge. But let's see if we can get there. So this round is just 3 double crochet into each chain space with 3 double, chain 1, 3 double crochet into the corner chain spaces. I'll get back to you at the end of the round. Whoop-diddy-woo! When you reach the beginning of row 4 again, you can fasten off with a slip stitch. That would be something like this. You look for the 3rd chain, insert your hook under both loops, and pull the yarn through and through. Then you would chain 1, cut the yarn. But what that would do is leave a little bump here. So the end result would have not a straight line of the border, but a little bump. I'm personally not a big favor of those little bumps, so I do something that's called invisible joining. I haven't discovered this method, I just use it a lot. And what that means is that you don't do the slip stitch. So after your 3rd double crochet here, you just cut the yarn at about 15 to 20 centimeters or something, like that. And then you pull it all the way through, just like that. And of course, this is not where it ends, because that would look really weird, even worse than having a little bump. So what we do now is we look for a needle. Doesn't really matter what type of needle you use here. And then you put your yarn in it. And now I'm hoping the black will play along a little bit. I think it does, to be honest. So what we have here, these are the 2 double crochets of the first chain space, and then this is the chain 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go under both loops of that first proper double crochet. I'll explain to you in a little bit why not in the 3rd chain from the hook. So both loops of this double crochet, you can see it, even though it's black yarn. And then you pull that through, and then the stitch you're coming from, so the last double crochet you made here, you push your needle under only the back loop. So not underneath both, that's how this would look, but only through the back loop. And what that does, it creates sort of a chain, and if you pull that and you have it sit atop of these chain 3, then it just looks like a regular stitch. I mean, if I move this yarn bit away and you just look at the border now, it's almost difficult to spot where the join is, right? That's why it's called an invisible join. What you do have to pay attention to is when you're darning away this end is not to pull on it too tightly, because then you change the size of this loop at the top. So if I make it really, really tight, then you can quite clearly see again where we fastened off or where we joined. So you want to make it look as big as its neighbors approximately. No need to get out a ruler, but just eyeball it and see, okay, now it has about the same size as the ones that come before and the ones that come after it. And then you can just go to the back of the work and darn away the end. So be careful not to pull on it now, because then you will change the size of your carefully made stitch. But of course, once you've gone up and down a few times, you can absolutely pull on it, because that should not matter anymore. And then you can just cut this yarn end close to the work. And then you've made an invisible join. You can do this in any project going in the round where you would normally end with a slip stitch and then a chain 1 or not a chain 1. So for the beginning end, now that you have your scissors and your needle next to you anyway, you can work the beginning of the border rows away as well, just to tighten it up, tidy it up a little bit. And that's it for the border now. This is where you could be finished. You have a border, it's as wide as the rest is. It looks very pretty if you ask me. So if you want to make a blanket or a rug, this is where you stop. But perhaps you want to make a wall hanging out of it, like the original was designed. Then you want to go to decide which side is the top of your project. It's symmetrical, so it shouldn't matter that much, but look for some place that you want to make your project on. And then there are two different ways to do this. You can either do this with treble crochets and chain spaces, or you can make chain spaces that fit your stick or whatever you want to put it on. So for the treble crochets, it's important that you use a stick that has a maximum diameter of 12 millimeters. That's what we tested it with. Also depends a little bit on your tension. So I'm going to show you these two methods, and then you can decide which works better for you. So for the very first stitch, we're going to do a standing treble. So you hold both yarns, you wrap your yarn around your hook twice, then you insert your hook into the chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop. You're still holding both ends, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, and yarn over, pull through two loops. That's a standing treble. Maybe you've learned something new now, but that looks like a treble instead of just a bunch of chains. I prefer the look of this. Then you're going to chain two, yarn over twice, skip 2 stitches, go under both loop of the next stitch, and finish your treble. So just yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. And again, chain 2, yarn over twice, skip 2 stitches, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then finish your treble by going yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. This will give you chain spaces and treble crochets. And what you will do with your stick is you will move it up and down and weave it through, as it were. So one more time, we're going to chain 2, going to wrap over twice, going to skip 2 stitches, go into the next, and make our treble. Chain 2, wrap around twice, skip 2 stitches, go into the next. What I want you to do at this point is grab your stick or thing you want to hang it up on and test if these are big enough for you to fiddle your stick through. If not, you can replace them with double treble or with quadruple treble or whatever you want to call it. So wrap around more often. That will become higher stitches. If you start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 2, go into the next stitch, and then do yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, until there's only one loop left on the hook. You can see that that yields a bigger stitch. So if you have a bigger stick, you can use bigger stitches, taller stitches, as it were. If not, stick to the treble. If you have a really small stick, even double crochets might work, where you work the rest of the project with. So this is method 1. This is one way to do it. Then you put your stick through and you just weave in this end by moving it down with your needle and doing it there at the back and then cutting the yarn. That's one method. Absolutely lovely. Yours to decide if you want to use this method or the next. The second method, you put your loop on your hook and you make a slip stitch in the corner, and then you chain a certain amount of stitches, and that's very vague, but you decide how many you need for the stick size you have. So that could be 10, that could be 20, that could be 15, could be anything. So you just chain the number that you need. Well, how do you know what you need? You just chain a few. For example, like this. And then you make a slip stitch into the next stitch. And you can darn over the end if you want to, if you prefer. Now we're going to be spacing these with 6 slip stitches in between loops. So this was 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry. And then 5 and 6. And then you're going to be chaining the same amount of stitches again. I didn't count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for example. And then make a slip stitch into the next stitch. This gives you little loops that are spaced a bit wider than in method 1, but otherwise function the same. They are just loops. And then when you have your stick or rod, you can go and insert it to see if it will hang nicely on your chosen stick or rod or whatever. So that's the second method. You decide how big you want your chain loops to be. Please be consistent. You can also increase or decrease the amount of slip stitches if you want, so more loops or less loops, for as long as it's evenly distributed. And I wouldn't personally choose to only make like 3 hanging loops or something, because then crochet will sag. So you do have to give it sturdy support to make sure that it stays like a rectangle, because for this pattern to look pretty, I do think it's important that it won't bulge and sag. So this is the second method if you want to turn it into a wall hanging, and you of course don't have to, but those are the 2 methods you could use if you want to make it into a wall hanging.